There is just something about a homegrown, independently made movie with big anti-Nazi energy that I desperately needed right now. It's like a high-octane chicken soup for the soul, if the chicken soup itself is a revenge fantasy and the soul is something that is seeking cinematic catharsis. And as freaky as the tales in this movie are, what's even freakier is the fact that I almost missed it completely. I didn't see a trailer, I didn't see a poster for this movie, I had no idea it was coming. Had it not been for the fact that my Pedro Pascal senses are heightened right now due to The Last of Us Season 2 coming out this week, then I feel like I would have missed this movie, and that makes me really upset. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily, or La Movie Mija. I'm a part-time filmmaker, full-time movie lover, and this is my review of Freaky Tales. I'm so excited to talk to you about this film today because it is a movie that had me feeling electrified as I walked out of the theater. Like, I felt so energized and excited, and it just really had a profound effect on me. I am not from the Bay Area, nor did I grow up in the 80s, but I had like a deep sense of nostalgia for this time and place that I have never experienced myself. And I don't think you have to be someone who's well versed in that era or from the Bay to really enjoy this film, and I think that's what makes it so beautiful. What really irks me about the fact that it's really flying under the radar, that it's not getting a bigger fanfare like I think it deserves, is that there are so many people, so many moviegoers that'll complain that there's no fresh ideas, no new movies, no movies that aren't based on already existing IP. And here we have a wholly original, fresh new movie that deserves a lot of fanfare, fantastic performances, incredible soundtrack, and it's just crickets. But the good news is, after a year or so of being in movie limbo after premiering at Sundance, it is finally in theaters for people to enjoy, and the more people see it, the more we can talk about it. So I'm so happy that we get to talk about it today. Let's get into it. Set in 1987 in Oakland, California, Freaky Tales is an anthology film that follows an NBA star, a corrupt cop, a female rap duo, teenage punks, neo-Nazis, and a debt collector and their intertwining stories. The film is co-directed and co-written by Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden, who previously collaborated together on the film Captain Marvel. And it stars Pedro Pascal, Jay Ellis, Ben Mendelsohn, Normani, Dominique Thorne, Ji Young-yu, Jack Champion, and the late Angus Cloud in one of his final roles. The film is set up as an anthology, and in that format, I typically don't find a lot of success with films that feel like they come together in a very satisfying way, but that's not the case in Freaky Tales. I feel like this movie makes a case for itself that it should only exist as an anthology because it's based on actual events and real people with a great amount of heightened reality and some magical retelling mixed in. There is so much to unpack with the different communities, and I feel like the storytelling is really effective because we get to meet these characters, we buy into them, they feel relatable and lived in, and it has to move really quickly because we're only with them for a brief period of time. Each of the individual stories have their own complete story arcs, while also maintaining the sense that they build upon one another thematically, leading to one epic conclusion. Tying the story all together is the place, Oakland, California, the true hero of the story, but also important is the time, May 10th, 1987. This is the night that Sleepy Floyd made his historic run in the fourth quarter of a playoff game against the Lakers with the Warriors back when they played in Oakland. And this is a historic time in Oakland history, so it makes sense that all of these stories center around this really important night. The other thing tying these movies together are the thematic elements. You see, Ryan Fleck, the co-director, co-writer, had this idea for Freaky Tales a long time ago, and it's been brewing in his head for over a decade, and he couldn't find a way to really bring the stories together in a meaningful way until Anna Boden, his longtime collaborator, found the connective tissue. She saw the potential of all of these underdog stories that could tell an inspiring tale and celebrate the city and community of Oakland. Each of the anthologies have their own unique look and styles about them. They even vary in aspect ratio from story to story, which is really fun to experience on the big screen. And it feels like this anthology is like every director's dream, where they get to flex a little bit of here, a little bit there. There's a really grounded, dramatic story that feels more traditional. And then we have this more punk-inspired story with some rough animation and some really cool handheld camera work. There's just an array. It's like a buffet of all these different styles and techniques that they utilize to bring each story to life. And because we're in these stories for such a brief amount of time, it feels like they really put their foot on the gas and let loose and just have fun with all of the creative elements that bring the stories together. I found each individual story to be super compelling, especially given the fact that we spend such little time with these characters, but we are able to connect with them. They feel lived in, they feel relatable, we are rooting for them, and we get to see a satisfying conclusion to each of these stories that stand alone, and together they build a tapestry that thematically builds builds upon one another. Even though each of them have their own unique style, collectively, this is a movie that's an homage to 80s pulpy big adventure movies. The cinematic and cultural nods throughout this film are really strong and purposeful, and there is like a homemade quality to this film that makes it a little scrappy in the best way. It's almost like they're okay with the seams of the movie showing for the audience to see how the movie came together. And when I describe this movie as scrappy, I really mean that as a compliment. Like, you feel like it's homegrown in the best way, like in a way that you'd hope that a movie that claims this much localized Oakland pride for this specific era would be. And while each vignette is a fully realized story in its own style, be it romance, drama, action, adventure, I feel like the tonal shifts throughout the film could be a little jarring if you're not bought into the whole anthology feel of it all, and can understand why that might be off-putting for some viewers. There's also this like magical element. There's like a green lightning in the sky that's like kind of like the embodiment of the aura of the time, you know, when you're just in a time and place that's really exciting and like people are believing in themselves and it's kind of disseminating across the city. The green lightning is kind of like that, and it's connecting all of the stories and brings like a magical element to them all together. But I don't feel like that aspect of the movie is as fully realized as the rest of the film, making for a greater discrepancy between that magical element and the real grounded, relatable characters and the real life events that these stories are based off of. I thought the performances across the board were super stellar and compelling. The top billed cast, Pedro Pascal, Ben Mendelsohn, Ellis, they all bring their A game in very different ways because each of the stories that we follow call for very different things from these actors. Pedro Pascal is this like cool debt collector and he stars in a more grounded, like dramatic facing story. Whereas you have Ellis who plays Sleepy Floyd himself, and he is a warrior in more ways than one. And I can't say too much about what he is called to do, but you should know that Ellis went above and beyond to ensure that he had the proper training to bring this character to life. And that it shows, okay? The dedication in this role is fantastic, and it was so fun seeing him in this role. Then you have Normani and Dominique Thorne who play the female rap duo together, and they have such great chemistry. They are so friendly, they are so fun. They are called to do some musical performance, and I was really excited to see Normani in this. I believe this is her first feature film role, and she did a fantastic job. I love the interplay that they have together, and I feel like demonstrating friendship or having that kind of chemistry off screen and bringing it to life is both a testament to the work of the actors and the script itself. And then you have Ji Young-yu and Jack Champion who star in the first story, and that story follows a punk group who is deciding how to confront the Nazis who are threatening their music club, their gathering space, with violence, and they're trying to figure out how to do away with them. And they are so fantastic, but Ji Young-yu is such a badass in this movie. I want to see more of her. She is incredible, and hell yeah. Overall, I found Freaky Tales to be a highly enjoyable watch, especially in a crowded theater, and I really want to go rewatch it. In fact, I've already got tickets to go see it again because there are little tidbits here and there with homage to the 80s films, to the 80s era in general, and little different ways that the stories interconnect, and you may not catch on to all of that the first time you watch it, so you might want to see it again and again. There's a lot to celebrate in this film, especially the city of Oakland itself, so if you are the slightest bit curious, I hope that you go seek this out in theaters as soon as possible while you can. According to Guillermo del Toro, watching a movie for the first time is a flirt, and watching it a second time or rewatching it is a day. And if that's the case, I think that this is the cinematic equivalent of love at first sight for me. I had so much fun with Freaky Tales. We are past flirting. This movie and me are getting serious. Speaking of getting serious, I hope you consider liking and subscribing to my channel so you can get one new movie review every single week from me, and sometimes I even take you to the movies with me. You can also follow me at Movie Mija everywhere, especially on TikTok this week if you want to hear all of my recaps of season 1 of The Last of Us, and I will be going live on the Sunday nights or Monday mornings for every episode of season 2. All right, let's talk about some spoilers for Freaky Tales. There are some details that I wanted to shout out desperately, but I didn't want to give too much away, so this is only for spoilers spoilers. So moving forward, if you haven't seen the movie, make sure you save this video, go watch the movie, and come back later to discuss. Can we get a little bit more commotion for that first story? Because that is a hell of a way to open up a movie. I loved the energy of it. I love that we had real bands featured at that club. I love the music aspect of it. I love the movie Green Room, and it had elements of that in this story in particular that reminded me of that movie, and I just really had a fun time getting to know Tina. I really cared for her really quickly. I love the solidarity that we see her acting as a co-conspirator, standing up with Dominique Thorne and Normani's character when they are getting antagonized, verbally attacked outside of the movie theater, and Tina decides to throw a couple middle fingers up back at the Nazis. And to my knowledge, it looks like she's the only one in the immediate area who does anything to show the two black women that they are not alone. That is some real punk attitude. What's more is I appreciated in the first story how we see Tina with her family, and her family is not giving her any grievances for how she dresses or like how she has like facial piercings. She doesn't feel like an outsider. She is someone who is deeply connected to her community of friends and her community at home. And I really love seeing her in both of those spaces and just seeing her as a full person. Shout out to the diversity we see in the crowd of people at the music club itself. I love getting to see actor Mike Infante in the film. He is living with cerebral palsy, and getting to see a moment that shows that he is safe in this space, I think is really important and conducive to showing what this scene is all about. I read that a technical consultant was brought on for this story in particular. He's the director of the story of East Bay Punk, which is a documentary about the real life club that some of this is based off of. And once you see images of the club depicted in the real life documentary and what we see brought to life in Freaky Tales, you can't help but just feel excited that there's spaces like this that exist, and more importantly, that people are willing to fight for them. The second story caught me by surprise because I didn't expect the pivot to be so hard. Like, we went from this like crazy battle with the Nazis, there's like these cool animations and a little bit of a romance blooming between our two main characters, which was also so cute, to our female rap duo who is now dealing with the Nazis who are verbally attacking them outside the theater. We get to see the other side of that interaction. We get to see the macro, I don't even think that's a microaggression, but the very aggressive conversation that Ben Mendelsohn's character has with them at the ice cream shop, only for us to find out that he is a cop, and that's not even the worst of it. And even though that story is less action-packed than the others, I feel like it was still so compelling, especially given the fact that you have Normani's character who is like becoming so insular and just kind of absorbing all of these different verbal hits. Dominique Thorne's character is like firing back and standing up for himself, and Normani is just kind of collecting it all, kind of like absorbing its power, and she's waiting for the opportunity to fling it back at people tenfold, and she uses that energy later on to combat Too Short in that rap battle, which, come to find out, is an actual song that wasn't conceived in the way that we see it in the movie. It was actually conceived through a series of people recording their verses in the studio, but that's a different story for a different day. But still, so cool to see those actual real life events threaded throughout the story. And then we get to our third story, and Pedro Pascal, he's the cool debt collector. He's so suave. He starts off with a very grave message, finding out that his wife has passed away, or someone has passed away. We don't know that it's his wife at the moment. And it's a very sharp tonal shift from the rest of the stories, which have, to this point, have all had happy endings. So this one, right off the bat, is not going to have the ultimate happy ending. We get to a happier resolution, or a resolution that brings some comfort, but not in the beginning at least. But we do get some brevity when we meet Hank, played by Tom Hanks, the video store clerk, and he is quizzing Clint, Pedro Pascal's character, on the best underdog stories ever told. And I really love this interaction. Speaking of nostalgia, just stepping inside the video store and just having the guy talk to you about different movies. When I lived in Boston, there was actually a video store that I would go to where you can rent movies, and like the video staff there were like this. I mean, they were a lot friendlier than Tom Hanks' character. So I really enjoyed that interaction. And if you know the name of the movie, that number one pick that is the best underdog movie that Tom Hanks was alluding to but never really got to reveal, please let me know, because I so want to know what the answer is. And then we get to the fourth story, and when I tell you, my jaw dropped when I realized that Sleepy says, "When I'm going to sleep," it means he's going into his third eye. He's awakening himself and astral projecting his spirit or energy to commit this insane attack on the Nazi house in a very Blade Kill Bill-like fashion. It was so freaking badass. His vest with his little knives, his warrior's warm-up uniform over it. That was such a cool look, and I felt like I was reading a comic book, and I love when I get to see something so fantastical like that, where it feels like it can't be real, but you're so happy that it is. The action in that is so well done, and it really speaks to Jay Ellis's training that he committed to make sure that he got that martial arts look and those techniques down just right. It is brutal, and it is wish fulfillment, at least for me, getting to see all of those Nazis have their comeuppance, especially when we find out that the police captain is the father of like the head of the Nazi gang. Like, it's truly frightening. And I like that this fourth story circles back to one of the main themes of the first, in which there is a conversation amongst the punk collective where they're trying to decide whether or not they're going to bring the cops into the fold to get them to help with the Nazis, or they're going to fight back themselves, or option C, do nothing. And so when you're trying to decide between pacifism and violence, they are striving for peace. They don't want to enact violence. However, when facing off with actual Nazis, it seems like sometimes violence is the answer, is the conclusion that the characters come to in the film. So to see that come all the way back to us in the end of the film, where Sleepy Floyd is using his meditation, his higher self, to enact a revenge for the Nazis killing his family, feels like a very apt conclusion. I understand why we got here, and even though it is still surprising, it feels connected to the themes and questions that this movie is exploring. If you made it this far, thank you so much for hanging with me. I just really enjoyed this movie, and I just wanted to tell more people about it. And if you watch this movie and you're saying, Emily, you missed this, please let me know, because I'm gonna go watch this movie again really soon, and I'm gonna kick myself if I find more things that I could have talked about and I just happened to miss in this recap. But yes, this is easily one of my top movies of 2025, if not my favorite. I mean, where else am I gonna get a movie that goes from Metallica's Whom the Bell Tolls to E40's Choices song in the same fight sequence, where Jay Ellis is dressed as a warrior in basketball warm-ups donning a samurai sword to kill Nazis? That is an insane sentence. That is something AI cannot generate, and I just love the kick-ass yeah nature of this movie. But let me know what you thought about Freaky Tales. Thank you again so much for watching my video. I'll see you next time. Bye.